Kara Holt hated two things: overtime and evidence. On a Monday at 6:42 p.m., she appeared beside my desk with a clipboard and a smile that felt like a trap. The accounting bay was quiet, but my screen was still full of weekend payroll exceptions. I stayed late because people in the warehouse deserved pay that matched their hours, not a delayed correction next week. "Mike, why are you still here?" Kara asked. "You do not get overtime. Why work this hard when nobody pays you for it?" "My name is Mike Reed. I am 44. I do payroll at Rivergate Supply Group, a distributor with a glossy lobby and a back office full of silent threats." I kept my voice even. "I want the pay run clean. People have bills." Kara slid a form onto my desk. Time misuse notice. It accused me of excessive presence after scheduled shift, which was a fancy way to say, "Stop making me look bad." "You are writing me up for finishing payroll?" I asked. "For ignoring direction," she said. "Leave at 5. If you stay again, it escalates." Rivergate loved slogans. The CEO, Walt Crane, sent weekly emails about precision and trust, usually right after finance announced cost discipline. The whole place felt like a theater where the props mattered more than the people. After that, every task became a coin toss. Print a report and Kara called it wasteful. Do not print it and Kara called it undocumented. Email a question and Kara said I bypassed her. Wait to ask in person and Kara said I delayed resolution. She did not want accuracy. She wanted obedience. Then the payroll errors started. At first they looked ordinary. Tim in shipping was short. Sue in dispatch had a deduction she did not recognize. I fixed them and logged corrections. But the same errors returned the next cycle, as if someone was undoing my work after hours. That is when I stopped assuming the system was clumsy and started assuming someone was creative. I ran a deeper audit and found a cluster of manual adjustments tagged to a cost code I had never seen. Vendor harmony. The amounts were always just under $5,000, always approved by Kara, and always posted late Thursday, right before the pay run closed. I asked her about it. Her eyes tightened, then her smile returned. "Do not worry about that. Executive level." "Payroll hits taxes," I said. "It hits reporting." Kara leaned closer. "Your job is to process. My job is to manage. If you poke at things above your pay grade, you will get poked back." That night, I stayed after 5 anyway. Not to be stubborn. To be sure. I cross-checked the payroll register against the general ledger export. Vendor harmony flowed into an expense account labeled Client Appreciation Services. Rivergate did not sell appreciation. Rivergate sold pallets. I opened the detail view. Vendor, Holt Consulting Services. Approver, Kara Holt. My stomach dropped, then my mind went calm. This was not an accounting mistake. This was a pipeline. Small withdrawals in a steady rhythm, always below the radar line. At 7:13 p.m., my inbox chimed. Another email from Kara. Subject: Time theft, follow up. I stared at her name in my inbox, then at her name in the ledger, then at the clock. If she wanted a paper trail, I would give her a highway. I printed the ledger detail, saved the exports, and created a folder on my desktop named Clean Run. Inside it, I placed my first file. Vendor Harmony, Holt Consulting, Thursday, 4:51 p.m. Then I locked my screen, grabbed my coat, and went home. Because if Rivergate was bleeding money through payroll, I was going to find the knife, and I already knew whose hand was on the handle. By Tuesday, Kara treated my desk like a crime scene. She leaned over my monitor, sighed theatrically, and dropped a form on my keyboard. Process deviation memo. Reason: unapproved audit activity. "You are running extra reports again," she said. "I am fixing payroll," I said. Kara smiled. "Accuracy is my responsibility. Your responsibility is output." She left before I could answer because she preferred monologues. I kept working and I kept saving files to Clean Run. Ledger exports, payroll registers, approval logs, screenshots of Kara name on every suspicious adjustment. I also started logging her rule bending. When she demanded I leave at 5, she assigned me tasks at 4:50. When she preached risk, she approved unreviewed manual changes herself. On Wednesday, I found the first real crack in the wall. Vendor harmony payments were coded as labor expenses, which shifted reporting in a way that looked tidy until you checked the notes. The attached comments read like inside jokes. Quiet close, special cover, flex support. Quiet close sounded less like accounting and more like a confession. I dug into the payroll master list and found 3 contractor profiles with plain names: Ben Gray, Liz Lane, Tom Park. No addresses, no emergency contacts, no benefit elections. Yet they received direct deposits every pay cycle. I opened the routing details. Same bank account, 3 different name fields. That is not payroll, that is a siphon. I printed the records, added them to Clean Run, and booked time with my supervisor, Dan Cole, the accounting ops manager. Dan liked calm spreadsheets and hated chaos. In his office, I laid it out cleanly. Dan, I am seeing repeated payroll irregularities, manual adjustments under vendor harmony, and 3 contractor profiles routing into 1 bank account. CARA approvals are on the entries. Dan stared at the page like it might bite him. Is this a system glitch? It is consistent, I said. It is approved. It needs review. Dan lowered his voice. We are heading into quarter close. The board package is drafted. If this becomes a crisis, finance will lose their timing. I am not trying to create a crisis, I said. I am trying to stop one. Dan did the thing managers do when truth is expensive. He chose the path that required no courage. Stop running side audits, he said. Focus on your assigned tasks. I will speak to CARA. 2 hours later, CARA called me into her office and held up screenshots of my system queries, highlighted like a scandal. You accessed executive cost codes, she said. You exported sensitive data. You stayed after 5 again. I stayed to finish payroll, I said, and the data is payroll data. CARA nodded as if I had confessed. I am escalating this. You are undermining governance. The next morning, HR appeared on my calendar. Performance support meeting. Tess Boyd from HR led it with a voice like a recorded menu. CARA attended too, smiling politely. Tess said, there are concerns about time discipline and process adherence. I said, there are concerns about payroll fraud. CARA shrugged. He is dramatic because he does not like boundaries. Tess slid a folder across the table. Rivergate called it the Focus Forward program. It was a performance improvement plan wearing a friendly hat. The goals were perfect nonsense. Improve collaboration, reduce friction, demonstrate trust in leadership. In other words, stop noticing things. I signed the receipt, not agreement, because I wanted the date on record. That afternoon, I emailed CEO Walt Crane. No attachments. Plain language. Walt, I have identified significant payroll irregularities involving vendor payments and contractor profiles. My manager has been informed. I am requesting a confidential review. I hit send and waited for a response. Hours passed. No reply. The only sound was CARA heels in the hallway circling the bay like she owned the air. And when I checked my inbox again, I saw a new message from CARA. Subject: Focus Forward Expectations. Her first line was cheerful. Mike, we are going to help you succeed. My screen reflected my face back at me, tired but steady. If CARA wanted me to stop noticing, she picked the wrong person, because I had already started counting. The Focus Forward program was less a plan and more a muzzle. CARA used it to move the goalposts. One day she ordered me to stop reviewing payroll adjustments outside my lane. The next day she demanded a report on why adjustments were increasing. If I followed her email, she scolded me for lacking initiative. If I showed initiative, she accused me of bypassing governance. Tess from HR called it coaching. I called it paperwork shaped like a cage. Dan Cole avoided my eyes. He forwarded CARA messages with notes like, please comply, as if compliance could solve theft. Meanwhile, the siphon kept running. Ben Gray, Liz Lane, and Tom Park kept getting paid. Vendor harmony entries kept appearing late Thursday. CARA approvals kept stamping them into existence. I exported everything and stored it in Clean Run, along with copies of my emails to Dan and Walt. Walt Crane never responded. Not to my first message, not to my second, not to the third, which I sent after CARA tried to accuse me of unauthorized access for viewing payroll records that were literally my job. On Friday, CARA called a meeting. Tess joined by video. Dan sat in the corner like a man waiting for a storm to pass. Kara slid a form toward me. Final warning. Reason: time theft risk and disruptive conduct. Disruptive conduct? I asked. Because I asked why 3 contractor profiles share one bank account. Kara leaned back. You keep making accusations. You keep staying late. You keep exporting reports without approval. I stay late because payroll is not clean, I said. You asked for reports. Tess smiled in that careful HR way. Mike, focus on what you can control. What I can control is whether I ignore fraud, I said, and I turned to Dan. Are we investigating or not? Kara answered for him. We are addressing your performance. That was the moment I understood Rivergate real fear. The company did not fear theft as much as it feared the inconvenience of admitting theft. I wrote one more email to Walt. Short, direct, and impossible to misread. Walt, I have documented vendor payments to Holt Consulting Services and contractor profiles routing to one bank account. I am on a performance improvement plan after raising these issues. This is retaliation risk. I request a confidential review. I copied the internal ethics line mailbox too. Rivergate loved posters about integrity. I wanted to see if any of them were real. 15 minutes later, Kara appeared at my desk. You copied ethics, she said, voice low. That was not appropriate. It was accurate, I said. Her smile turned sharp. Pack your things. HR is waiting. They used the small conference room with no windows, the one that makes everyone look guilty by default. Tess had a folder ready. Dan stood behind her. Kara sat closest to the door. Tess spoke softly. Mike, we are ending your employment effective today. For reporting payroll irregularities? I asked. Kara answered. For failing to meet expectations, for unapproved audit activity, and for time discipline concerns. So you are firing me for staying late to keep payroll legal, I said. Tess kept her smile. We appreciate your contributions. I looked at Kara. Are you going to keep paying Ben Gray, Liz Lane, and Tom Park? Kara blinked once. Those are confidential payroll matters. I nodded. Everything is confidential until it is evidence. Security walked me to my desk while my coworkers pretended not to watch. I packed my mug and my notebook. My badge stopped working before I reached the door. My email was locked before I reached the elevator. Kara leaned in for a final whisper. You should have left at 5. I whispered back. You should have stopped stealing. Outside, the sun was bright enough to feel insulting. Rivergate had removed my access like deleting a problem. They thought the story ended when I walked out, but the story was just switching audiences. That night, my phone buzzed with a severance offer, 2 weeks of pay and a signature on a separation harmony agreement. Rivergate loved the word harmony when money was missing. The agreement included non-disparagement, confidentiality, and a line that made me laugh on my couch. Employee affirms no knowledge of wrongdoing. Kara wanted my silence in writing. I opened Clean Run instead. Vendor harmony entries. Holt Consulting Services invoices. Contractor profiles with one bank account. Kara approvals. Dan emails telling me to comply. My 3 unanswered emails to CEO Walt Crane. The performance improvement plan. The termination summary. If Rivergate wanted a neat ending, they should have behaved neatly. The next morning I called Ray Mills, an employment attorney with a voice like sandpaper and a sense of humor sharpened by years of corporate nonsense. Short version, Ray said. Payroll manager is siphoning money through fake contractor profiles and a vendor, I said. I reported it. I got a performance improvement plan. I escalated to the CEO. He ignored me. Then they fired me. Ray paused. You kept records? I kept everything. Good, he said. Then they fired the wrong person. Ray sent a demand to preserve records and asked the only question that mattered. Who can override the CEO? The board, I said. Rivergate had an ethics line, but it routed through HR, which was like sending a theft report to the person holding the keys. Ray suggested the audit committee instead. We drafted a packet. No drama, just dates, numbers, and exhibits. We sent it to the board chair, Gwen Price, and to the audit committee mailbox. Subject: material payroll irregularities and retaliation risk. Within hours, Gwen replied, We will review. Please do not contact employees directly. Ray read it and nodded. That means they are scared. That afternoon, Walt Crane finally emailed me. Not an apology, not a question, just a command wrapped in politeness. "Mike, please route all concerns through HR." Ray answered, "All communication will go through counsel. The board has documentation of payroll irregularities and retaliation. Confirm records are preserved." Walt responded fast. Suddenly he could type. He offered more severance. He offered a consulting arrangement. He wanted a quiet solution that kept the quarter clean. Then Gwen called Ray directly. "The audit committee has questions," she said. "Specifically, why did the CEO not act after the employee emails?" Ray sent the timeline. 3 messages to Walt, same subject, no response, all before quarter close. Gwen asked for proof of delivery. I had screenshots. I had routing confirmations. I had read receipts. We sent them. The next week, Rivergate changed its tone. Auditors appeared in conference rooms. Finance stopped smiling. Kara took personal leave, which is corporate for someone locked out of systems. Dan stopped forwarding compliance notes and started asking if I still had copies of my reports. The same people who called me disruptive now wanted me to be helpful, quietly, off the record. The truth landed with a thud. Walt did not ignore me because he doubted the facts. He ignored me because admitting fraud would have forced a restatement. A restatement would have wrecked the board package and shattered the quarter story he had already promised. He protected Kara to protect the numbers. And numbers do not testify. People do. Rivergate requested mediation and offered a settlement if I signed the agreement, stayed silent, and agreed my termination was performance-based. Ray asked me one question. "Do you want money or do you want justice?" I pictured Kara smile, her write-ups, her whisper at the door. Then I pictured Tim and Sue and every warehouse worker who would be blamed when payroll finally broke. "I want both," I said. Ray grinned. "Then we file." 2 days later, we filed a lawsuit for retaliation and wrongful termination. We also provided the fraud packet to the appropriate state agency and the company insurer. If Rivergate wanted harmony, they were about to get a chorus. And the board was finally listening. The first deposition felt like watching Rivergate juggle knives while insisting the blades were imaginary. Their lawyers asked why I stayed late, why I ran reports, why I created conflict. They treated payroll fraud like gossip and my documentation like a personality flaw. Ray Mills let them talk. Then he slid exhibits across the table. Vendor harmony entries approved by Kara Holt. Holt Consulting Services invoices paid through payroll. Contractor profiles for Ben Gray, Liz Lane, and Tom Park, all routing to one bank account. My emails to Dan Cole. My 3 emails to CEO Walt Crane. The performance improvement plan dated right after my first report. The termination summary written like a script. When you stack paper high enough, excuses start to sound tiny. Discovery made it worse for them. Rivergate produced internal messages they never wanted in daylight. Kara asked finance if she should pause harmony during audit season. Walt replied, "Do not touch the quarter narrative. Keep this contained until after board review." Contained did not mean stop the theft. It meant stop the embarrassment. Gwen Price scheduled an audit committee session and allowed me to speak because my lawsuit was now a loud ticking clock. I did not bring emotion. I brought a timeline. I described Kara environment, the write-up for staying late, the constant rule bending, the policies designed to make compliance impossible. I explained how payroll errors returned, how the contractor profiles fed one bank account, how vendor harmony flowed to a vendor with Kara name on it. Then I described the silence. 3 emails to Walt. No action until the board received my packet. Only then did he want mediation and quiet agreements. A board member asked, "Why would the CEO ignore this?" "Because the quarter story was already promised," I said. Rivergate tried one last trick. They offered a settlement big enough to feel flattering, but it came with strings. Silence, no cooperation, and a statement that Kara actions were unproven. Ray tapped the page. "They want you to help them bury her." I said, "They already buried me. I learned to dig." We declined. 2 weeks later, Kara was terminated. Rivergate called it a leadership transition. The next week, Walt Crane stepped down to focus on family, which is corporate for he does not want to answer questions under oath. The case accelerated. The insurer pushed for settlement. The The state agency opened an inquiry. The audit firm warned Rivergate about correcting prior reports. Suddenly, Rivergate discovered urgency. They agreed to terms that felt like reality instead of theater: damages for retaliation, back pay, legal fees, and additional penalties tied to the cover-up. Once a CEO writes, "Keep this contained," it stops being a payroll issue and becomes governance failure. Ray called me on a Friday afternoon. "It is done," he said. "You won big." The number was freedom money. It paid off debt, rebuilt savings, and bought back something Rivergate had been stealing for years: sleep. A month later, Dan Cole spotted me at a grocery store and said, "I wish I had listened." I smiled. "You did listen. You just picked the wrong voice." The next morning, a payroll compliance firm called North Harbor Ledger Works confirmed my start date. On my first day at North Harbor, my new manager, Jake, pointed to a policy on the wall. On-call work is paid, always. He said it like it was obvious. I almost laughed because at Rivergate the obvious things were treated like rebellion. I set my mug on the desk and opened a clean ledger. For the first time in months, clean felt normal. Revenge is not always a dramatic scene. Sometimes it is watching the people who mocked your caution get audited into silence. Kara wanted me out the door at 5. Walt wanted the quarter story clean. They both got what they asked for. And then they got what they earned.